Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
My friends, welcome to today's rally, where today we speak about the current no-win situation that the President of the United States has gotten himself into. Now, I'm not going to go long and wide talking about the imagery, because the imagery looks pathetic. A few US soldiers, US Marines, tucking in the red carpet under the stairs of the Russian plane. That is pretty bad imagery. Or perhaps should we talk about how Trump had to wait for Putin at the end of the red carpet, for Putin to get his royal behind out of the plane and then speak to Trump? Well, at the very least, my friends, it's good to see that Putin has not become any less socially awkward than he used to be in the past, as he steps from foot to foot as he's talking to Trump, like a geriatric individual with some kind of a syndrome, with some kind of severe mental illness. And it's very clear, my friends, it's very clear he's not all right in there. But let's talk about what was achieved. Let's talk about the actual discussion at hand. Now, Trump, very rarely so, he actually managed to summarize the whole endeavor in one sentence. There is no deal until there is a deal. I mean, indeed, people die if they are killed. What a good thing to say, right? It's useful, truly. It's very useful that Trump said that there's no deal until there is a deal. I didn't know that before he said it. I'm sure none of you did, my friends. It's very difficult to come up to. It's like saying 1 + 1 = 2. It's very important information, and I'm sure we all stand to gain something with it. Now, jokes aside, my friends, in this situation, in this latest debacle, in this shameful display, once again, from the United States, we see that the people who usually say nothing ever happens have once again been proven to be right. Nothing happened. Nothing. Trump met Putin, all of this build-up, all of this stuff, and then no deal whatsoever, nothing, no agreement, not even a whiff of information. The funny thing is, the people who support Ukraine say that Trump humiliated himself, which is true. And it's very funny to see the Z zombies on the Russian side say that somehow Putin humiliated himself. Now, funnily enough, my friends, they are, to a certain extent, correct. This shows that Putin cannot go forward with his maximalist demands in this war. But it also shows that Trump doesn't really care enough to simply bang his fist on the table and say, Putin, this is what you're going to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That's how it should be. Now, my friends, why is it that the president of the most powerful country in the world has to stand at the end of the red carpet waiting for some local dictator to actually get out of his plane and go meet him? Why does this have to happen? And what was there to gain with it? Nothing but shame. Nothing but bad views for all the people. A bad look for the whole world. Once again, as many times in the past. And keep in mind, the whole deadline Trump gave Putin, it just evaporated. It's as if it never existed. Think about it. What about all the countries that have pledged themselves to arrest Putin if he ever sets feet in there? What will they think now? Now that Trump has invited Putin to Alaska, as he called himself, as he invited him to Russia, apparently. I mean, I guess Trump thinks Alaska is Russia. Now that he invited him there to US soil, what will the other countries think? What will the rest of the world think? It's ridiculous, my friends. It's an absolutely ridiculous situation to be in. Why must the free world keep playing chicken with Putin? Why must the free world keep asking? And then Putin drags his feet for a while, and then Putin denies what they asked him. How many times must this happen again and again and again, my friend? When will the free world finally understand that there can be no negotiations with the Russian terrorist regime until there are clear security assurances for Ukraine, until there are clear threats to Russia? Right now, Russia is not under threat by the free world, not officially. The free world has not voiced any action that they might do if Russia doesn't do what they're being asked to do. In other words, it's all just hot air coming out of people's mouths. No real meaning, no real reason, no actual objective to be had. It's just a perpetual feet dragging. Always. Now why? Why should we do this? Why should we be part of this? Why should the free world humiliate itself as such as to give Putin a platform, let him speak as an equal to the President of the United States, my friends? Is that not something shameful for the United States? To have their own president be seen as an equal to Vladimir Putin, the head of a dying nation. Dying nation in many different ways, keep in mind. One of them is demographically. You know, these days they're trying to force Russian women to have more children, as they are simply dying off. And very few people actually want to move to Russia, because countless times we've seen it happen and again. Countless times people from poorer countries go to Russia expecting to have a decent wage and to go back home with some money. They end up being given a rusty Kalashnikov and being sent to the battlefield by the Russian terrorist regime. Now how about that for some extra earning? Now a lot of people have wisened up. Now although there's still a lot of desperate people in this world that are willing and able to go to Russia seeking a better future, they are not doing it as much as they used to. My friends, let's call a spade a spade. If Ukraine was provided with the most powerful weapons that the free world has to offer, and no, I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. We're talking about fighter jets, about long-range missiles, about the technology Ukraine lacks. If Ukraine was provided with that, this war would have been over long ago. But no, we still see people stick to this idea of, oh, you know, if we give Ukraine our weapons, nothing will be left for us. Who else is there to fight in Europe? Who else is a threat to Europe but Russia? If Russia is put down for good, there will be no more threat to Europe. Is that not the purpose of weapons at the end of the day? To put your enemies down for good. To prevent them at the very least from attacking you because they know there's going to be retaliation. What retaliation is realistic to expect from Europe right now at this moment? Nothing. Europe is clearly scared of Russia. The United States, they do not give a damn about the situation, my friends. They don't care. They really do not care. And this is why we can't stress this enough. Europe must unite at long last, or Europe will be split amongst the self-proclaimed world superpowers of the United States and China. Is that where we want to find ourselves in the future, my friends? Becoming a colony for either the US or the Chinese? Is that what we want to happen to us? For all the history of Europe, the long and illustrious history of this whole continent, to be trampled underneath ignorance in our days, where people do not realize, no, they refuse to realize that the rest of Europe is next on the block. And keep this in mind, my friends. Take this from us as a Ukrainian rally. The world does not revolve around Ukraine. We never said it does. We never will say it does, because it doesn't. But Ukraine is the first and most important step in the violent expansion of the enslaved world. The Russian terrorist regime, the Ayatollah terrorist regime in Iran, the North Korean terrorist regime, and yes, CCP China. Right now it seems like the United States are making this silly excuse that, oh, you know, we need our weapons, we need our funds to prevent CCP from invading Taiwan. My friends, if Ukraine falls, the invasion of Taiwan will be inevitable. It will happen 100% if that happens. The best way to destroy your enemy is to strike them when they're weakened. Right now, the Russian terrorist regime is weakened. It needs time to prepare to a new invasion. It's time to recover. Why wait? But my friends, don't take us the wrong way. We would be happy to achieve peace right now. However, peace cannot happen if there is zero assurances for Ukraine for the future. What's the difference between now, having right now a peace treaty between Ukraine and Russia? Fine, sure, we freeze the borders, no problem. But what's next? Exactly the same thing that happened in the past. Russia may wait a year or two, rebuild, regroup, and then go for another try. Is that what we want? No, my friends. A peace of a day, a few hours, a week, or even a year is worthless. It's worse than worthless. It's just allowing your enemy to go behind you and stab you in the back once again. No, my friends, we want peace. We want peace above anyone else. But the most important thing is for Russia to finally be put in front of a fact that there will be consequences if they invade again, if they commit these atrocities in the future. But right now, what deterrents are there against Russia doing the same thing they've done in the past? What deterrents do we have? What's visible? What can we say that will happen to Russia if they break the rules, as they did many times in the past, and they break any peace agreement about to happen? What will happen to them? Nothing. Ukraine gave up the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, in the biggest nuclear demilitarization in human history. That is an overwhelming sacrifice. The greatest sacrifice any country has made for world peace. And what did Ukraine get in return? It's getting browbeaten because of corruption. Are we serious? Nobody was shouting corruption when Ukraine was giving up its nuclear weapons. Nobody cared. When Ukraine was giving up its own power to defend itself, to defend Europe, nobody cared about corruption. So why now do we have these shills and Russophiles like Tucker Carlson and his likes talking, oh, but you know, Ukraine is so corrupt? And the best, my personal favorite, is Orban. Hungary, the most corrupt country in the EU right now, is complaining about corruption in Ukraine. How funny is that? Now, hopefully, the Hungarian people will know better, and they'll bring Orban down for good. And they'll put Peter Magyar as their new Prime Minister. We hope for that. However, we don't know what to say right now, my friends, because Trump seems to be leading the free world astray. Now, there's nothing wrong with talking to your enemies. There's no problem with that, but you need to know what to say. You need to know what demands you can make. You need to know who you're speaking to. And the Russian terrorist regime, they do not care about condemnation. They stopped caring very long ago. One could say they never cared in the first place. However, why is it that we keep trying to see the Russian terrorist regime through the lenses of the free world? Why does that keep happening? Russia is not a European country. Russia is not a free country. Russia is not a country from the free world. Russia is not part of the West. It never was, never will be. Not the way they are right now. It may be in the future if their regime falls and there's a regime change influenced by the free world, which is what should happen. But my friends, right now, just like many times in the past, we're once again placing our bet in this imaginary good sense, into this reasonable demeanor from Russia. It reminds me of the film The Darkest Hour, where Lord Halifax was telling Churchill, Hitler will be reasonable, he will know his limits, he will not ask for too much. Very interesting. What do we hear about Putin right now? Oh, Putin is a man of reason, Putin is so well spoken, is so classy. What class are we talking about? Is it perhaps him stepping from one foot to the other as he's talking to Trump, like some kind of an individual with severe mental issues? My friends, the man belongs in a mental institute, not as head of a country. And I would say where I think Trump belongs, but I'm not going to take it that far, not today, because Trump has done worse in the past. This time, Trump's actions are simply ineffectual. They're more of the same that he's done in the past. It's nothing. In fact, it's actually a little bit hurtful, because it once again lowers the status of the United States of America. Who will care about the word of the United States when we see their Marines kneeling towards the plane of an international war criminal and dictator just to fix his red carpet so that he can come out of his plane and he can greet Trump, who was waiting for him at the end of the red carpet? My friends, it's not a good look. But of course, as always, if anyone would like to ask us a question, to contribute their opinion about this topic, we welcome anyone to stand right here before us and to ask us a question, and we will answer it as well as we can. Because in these rallies, my friends, we try to come up with the best solutions. We try to come up with the truth, to figure out what's the best thing to do. However, it's quite clear at this point, and this is something should have been done long ago. The best way out of this situation is to give Ukraine access to all of the best armaments the West has to offer, save for the nuclear weapons. Ukraine has no need for nuclear weapons right now, but Ukraine has a need for the most powerful weapons the West has to offer to put the Russian terrorist regime's military down for good. I can't help but even see some reason in some of these vatniks who say, oh, you know, the free world is giving Ukraine enough to last longer, but not enough to have any actual achievement. That's true. That is true. We have to admit, we have to agree with our position when it's correct. They are correct in that one point. Why is Ukraine not being given enough to put the Russian terrorist regime's military down? Why is this always the modus operandi? Just give them the bare minimum and then expect them to have some gains. I invite everyone who can hear us to watch the amazing documentary, the great film, 2,000 Meters from Andriivka. It's an incredible film. I highly recommend it. 2,000 Meters from Andriivka. Anyone who can do it, watch it in the cinema or watch it online, anywhere you want. 2,000 Meters from Andriivka. It shows what the Ukrainian soldiers on the battlefield had to go through to capture those meters, meter by excruciating meter. They had to capture it from the Russian terrorist regime in the counteroffensive a while ago. Just to please our allies, just to show them, look at that, we have some gains, we can get some gains, we can take land back. My friends, blood is more precious than soil. Ukraine was happy in the past to trade some of its soil for the blood of its people, so that that blood would not have to be shed anymore. But not without any assurances. It's impossible. Keep in mind, Ukraine had agreed to cease fire with Russia in the past, in the first and second Minsk agreements. Ukraine has allowed the Russians to keep the land that they had at that point. But what happened afterwards? The Russians betrayed their word and went for more. So what's the point? What's the point of negotiations with absolutely no threat of repercussion for Russia? Now, a wise thing to remember is only a fool makes threats that they're not ready to actually go through with. Only a fool does that. So we should not make threats that we're not ready to actually implement. But my friends, is that not what Trump has done over and over again? Look at the amount of deadlines he has given Putin. Look at the amount of deadlines Putin flew straight through. He doesn't care. Trump's word is meaningless to him. He feels like no matter what he does, no matter how angry Trump may get, All Putin has to do is to have a quick chat with him to say how great of a president he is, how accomplished of a man, how big and strong of a leader Trump is. And then Trump will mellow down and say, yes, Mr. Putin, he's so reasonable, he's so wise, he knows what he's talking about. Isn't that the most pathetic thing you've seen in your life? A world leader, the leader of the most powerful country in the world, melting in the face of a couple of compliments coming from a war criminal. Yes, please.
I'm just curious, because I'm an American, okay? And I'm very, very curious to hear your point, because I think
100%.
everything is
Go ahead.
lies. Everything is lies.
What's your question?
My question is, do you think Biden or whoever was running our country at that time, do you think they had the answer?
That's your question. All right, so did Biden or anyone else have the answer?
They had the answer to bring peace, because I hate war. This is senseless. All these
we all do.
We all do. All these people are dying, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in Gaza, whether it's in Israel.
Yeah, so your question is, did Biden have the answer?
Think, because I'm gonna be very honest with you.
Go on.
Okay? I'm a Trump supporter, because
I get it.
honestly, in our country, shit was bad. Shit was bad.
Sure.
And the and I'm telling you on my side, and I'm not being.
No, I get your question. Let me answer your question then. Let me answer your question.
Did you think Biden or whoever's running
Did Biden or Obama or any other person, any other president, did they have the answer? Okay, that's a good question. I like that question. Thank you. No, they did not.
Thank you.
They weren't doing the right thing.
Right. Okay.
But they were doing slightly better. Not Obama. I don't like the way Obama was dealing with this situation at all. Obama was pretending nothing was happening. Let's just talk about that. So Obama had one of the worst approaches to the whole thing. Obama is the president who allowed Putin to feel at ease to commit further atrocities, because it was, as we all know, during Obama that Russia initially annexed Crimea. And Russia initially went into the Donbass and started this war in 2014, all the way back there. So I do agree with you. I'm not going to start, sugarcoating what Obama did or what Biden did. Biden is the pinnacle of the critique I was giving the Europeans right now, of giving Ukraine enough to survive, but not enough to actually achieve anything meaningful on the battlefield. It's not the right thing to do.
But all the taxpayers' money, my tax, everything. There's so much corruption in the United States, okay?
Well, there's corruption everywhere.
No, absolutely, but it is coming out because people were asleep. People were asleep for many, many decades.
But hold on a second. Let's talk about the corruption, though. Let's talk about the corruption. So corruption is a different point from the whole point of geopolitics. I agree with you. It's not good to see corruption as a whole. But geopolitics is a little bit of a different topic. So I guess we shouldn't be jumping to corruption, you know what I mean? My point about this is, the United States has a great power in this world. It's still the most powerful country in the world, although I would say it's on a bit of a decline with the recent administration. But anyway, the biggest power, the greatest power of the United States, it's not its military, it's not its resources, it's its worldwide influence. It used to have an overwhelming amount of influence, allies everywhere. No matter who would speak out, would do something against the United States, they would have 10 allies on each spot to immediately oppose them. And if a war started, the allies would be the ones fighting the war, and then the United States could come in and bring the coup de grace, finish off their enemies very easily. That was the greatest power of the United States. Look at America now. They have lost their monopoly on alliances worldwide. The Europeans, no trust for the United States anymore. The United Kingdom is the last ally the United States have in Europe. And even they are losing hope in the United States for the future. Why is this happening? Because of Trump right now. Biden did damage. Biden was not good. But Biden was not ruining this great power the United States have, this great alliance network. Trump is. He's losing credibility worldwide.
But you have to understand, too, we had nobody else to fix what Biden.
You don't like Nikki Haley?
I'm sorry?
Nikki Haley. You don't like Nikki Haley?
She did not have the balls.
Okay, I
I'm
guess
sorry.
you think
You
she's a
gotta-
Reno, like Republican only in
I'm
name.
all for, no, I'm
In
all
name
for,
only.
you know, women or whatever, but
enough.
you gotta
No,
understand.
it doesn't matter if she's a woman or
Right,
not. I just
but
think
you
her
have to
policies were better.
understand where the people, it got so bad in America. I'm middle class in America.
I agree with you.
Okay?
I agree with you. It got pretty bad, yeah.
And we struggled. I
Yeah.
got one child, and we struggled.
Yeah, I agree with you. I sympathize with you. Look, nothing against the Americans.
No.
Well, I just want to say one thing. We still see America as an ally, as friends, as
Right,
people
absolutely.
we actually look up to them. We hope Ukraine will be free from Russia and will be able to establish a strong democracy, a strong democratic system. But we need to call a spade a spade. Right now, America is going through a time of democratic backsliding. They're kind of sliding back on a lot of things they used to have good. Look, J.D. Vance, for example, I don't know if you heard about this story. Not too long ago, there was a Norwegian student who was supposed to go to the US. He was banned from the US because they found a meme about J.D. Vance with his bald head and whatever. It was like Photoshopped. On his phone, he was banned. And J.D. Vance, he had the face to say, oh, you know, in the United Kingdom, there's no freedom of speech. What? There's no freedom of
You
speech.
couldn't do this right now if there was no freedom of speech.
Sorry?
You wouldn't be able to do this right now.
100%. I completely agree with you. Well, then again, I'm sure I would be able to do this in the United States. I'm sure I wouldn't go to jail,
but
right? I
no,
hope
you
so.
won't go to jail, but
there might be consequences,
depending
yes.
on what side you agree on,
That's right.
you will get attacked.
Sorry, what's your name, miss?
I'm Rose.
Rose. It's nice to meet you, Rose.
You know, I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate your question. It's very good.
First time here, I'm only here not
Oh, welcome,
24
welcome.
hours, and I love it. So
Welcome.
this is awesome.
Listen, I hope the United States will be a strong, prosperous, powerful country. We wish all the best for the United States.
I wish all the best for the world.
For the whole world, 100%. For the whole world. But I believe there's one main issue right now with Trump's supporters. I'm not talking about you in particular.
I know.
I'm talking about in general.
Right.
It's this idea of isolationism is good. A lot of people seem to think, oh, you know, the United States, why are we wasting all of this taxpayer money going to these countries? Why US aid? We don't need US aid. That is a little bit of a two-dimensional view of the world. The United States does not exist in a vacuum, separated from the rest of the world. And sure, it can subsist, it can survive, it has the resources for that. Not a lot of countries can. The United States can. But they will never prosper. And do you really think, does any person who supports isolationism or Trump or whatever sort of conservatives there is the United States right now, do they really think that if the United States back from every single country that supports them, they just remove all of their bases, remove all of the foreign taxpayer support, they call it foreign wars, whatever they call it. If they do that, is China going to leave the United States alone? Never.
Never.
They will
That's
push
never gonna
forward.
happen.
They will take over the countries where the United States removed from.
We need the UK, we need
100%. Completely agree.
100%.
Unity in the free world.
We have to.
Thank you
God
very
bless
much.
you, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Round of applause for this brave lady, guys. Very brave. Thank you very much for your question. You know, guys, I love when people ask good questions. This was a very good question here, very good interaction with our American friend. Once again, my friends, despite all the critique I've been giving to the current Trump administration, we still hope for the best for the people of the United States of America, as they are a huge asset for the free world. They are still the most powerful country in the world. And we hope they will make the right decision and not go within this path of isolationism. Of, oh, you know, let's just shut ourselves in. We don't need our taxpayer money to go abroad, to go to these foreign wars. What is that all about? That is the greatest power of the United States, to be able to influence the world, to be a good influence, above all. Look at Germany, post-World War II. It got reformed. Now it's one of the top economies in the world. One of the freest countries in the world. Look at Japan, same thing. My friends, it works to beat your enemies and change their ways. It does work. We've seen it happen after World War II. So why all of this lack of trust, lack of hope? I'll tell you why. It's because one thing that this lady mentioned, there's a lot of corruption as well. So that needs to be dealt with. But just because there's corruption, my friends, doesn't mean we should simply tie our own hands behind our back and not move a muscle. Oh, you know, whoever I help, it's gonna be corrupt individuals. No, that's not a good view to have. The best view to have is to have agency in this world. Now this country, this great country of the United Kingdom, Great Britain, it has a history of initiative on the world stage. And it should stay true to this initiative. I'm personally very happy to see the United Kingdom re-establish good relations with France and Germany. It's very important. UK, France and Germany together. And Russia would stand no chance on the battlefield against them. However, my friends, Europe is still not ready. Europe is still struggling quite a lot to deal with the hybrid warfare of the Russian terrorist regime and to actually manage to separate itself. Europe is going through a very big moment, a very big identity crisis right now. Europe is not sure what it is, you know. Some of these individuals, like Orban, they scream and shout, oh, you know, we're gonna make Europe great again, kick out all the migrants, kick out all the migrants. These people cannot be trusted. These people do not have their country as their top priority. They have their pockets as their top priority. Orban got caught in one of the worst pedophilia scandals in European politics ever. Did Orban resign? No, he's still in charge. Even after the big protest against him, he did not resign. And his support was still religiously following him. So my friends, it's very important to remind everyone, our number one message is unity of the free world against the enemies of the free world. The Russian terrorist regime, the Ayatollah terrorist regime in Iran, the North Korean terrorist regime. These are the most direct enemies of the free world. Unity against them. And strength of each country of the free world. To invest in your military is no longer just something that's nice, that looks good on papers. It is something essential for the safety of each country in Europe, now threatened by the Russian terrorist regime. But the war, my friends, the most direct war in the trenches is not here. Here we have hybrid war, here we have subversion, here we have arson attempts, assassination attempts, and kidnapping attempts by the Russian terrorist regime. Some of them end up being successful. As we've seen many individuals under British protection being assassinated by the Russian terrorist regime. One of the most important of them all is Litvinenko, the ex-KGB agent, ex-FSB rather agent. I sometimes confuse them because they're so similar. They're exactly the same organization, for those who don't know. They just rebranded the name. It's like the Russian anthem. But that's an interesting bit of trivia for anyone who doesn't know that. The Russian anthem they have right now is the same melody as the Soviet anthem, except with slightly different words. It's the same exact thing. They didn't change. They're the same. But my friends, our message is the path towards victory lays through the victory of Ukraine above all. Fight the jets for Ukraine!
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 Air defense 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 for Ukraine!
Long-range missiles 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 for Ukraine!
Let Ukraine strike back!
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 More sanctions on Russia!
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 Seize Russian assets!
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 No trade with Russia!
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 That, my friends, is the solution.